A subscriber just confronted me and caught me lying to you. As you know, I've told you many times that I live about 90% self-sustaining. And it wouldn't take much for us to become 100% self-sustaining. As a matter of fact, I don't think we would need to do anything except stop going to the grocery store or stop going to the gas station. I honestly think we could just flip a switch and do it. I try to make comparisons a lot between myself, self-sustaining, and preppers. And I've tried very hard to explain that I think being self-sustaining is just better than being a prepper. If you're living the life as though SHTF stuff hits the fan, then how can you not be ready for SHTF? I'm not saying prepped. I'm not prepped. I have no preps. I have 200, 300 cans of food that we canned up, but that's my preservation. We butcher chickens, we preserve them. That's not prepared. I'm not preparing for anything. I just live the life of no electricity except for what's in my solar panels, no water hookups except what comes out of my well, and firewood. So I have my heat, so I don't need anything. Somebody accused me of not being able to cook without propane. And I just can't imagine this. I mean, yeah, Carolyn uses this little camp stove to cook with. Got her coffee, which runs off propane. But I've showed you many times, she also has her entire wood cooking setup right over here. And she's got her oven, she's got her rocket stove, which also converts into a grill. This she can put on top of the grill. And all this firewood here is firewood we can't use in the wood stove. It's just no good. Too wet, rotten a little, but she can use it over here really well. Yesterday she made steaks and she smoked the steaks with some of that rotten wood. Oh man, that was delicious. And then of course the laundry. We live the life. And so I don't have to worry about laundry, or Carolyn has, I should say Carolyn doesn't have to worry about laundry if the electric goes out, because she already does laundry by hand in these tubs or in a bucket. Just recently, we had this hard freeze and our water system froze up. And I talked to you about this extensively and don't want to spend too much more time on it in this video. But our tank, our ABC water tank right here, inside here, the plumbing that goes to it, the pump and all that, froze up. So we couldn't get water from the tank into the house. So as I said many times before, well, it wasn't a big deal. I just went over to the well, which can't freeze. I've explained that before in previous videos. Not going to go into it again today. Filled up some buckets, brought it into the house. We heated the water on the wood stove. So I asked Carolyn, do you feel like there was any inconvenience on a scale of 1 to 10? Was there any inconvenience with the water tank not working correctly? She said no, hadn't noticed a thing. Again, living the life. Every day, or every 5 days I should say, I have to start the well and I have to fill the water tank. So when we froze up and we had a glitch in our system, now if you had a glitch in your system, you wouldn't have any water. Whether you have a well or you have public services. I know up there in where my mom lives, she lives in a municipality. A few years ago, we parked our camper there. We stayed with her for a while. They had a water line freeze up in town. She was without water. That's just the end of it. You're out of water. No backup systems. We really didn't see a big difference other than filling the tank. We had to fill a bucket and we had to do it more frequently. Living the life, doing it every day, not preparing for if it happens. We test ourselves every day. So for example, I'm accused a lot of coffee. I've made some parody videos or joke videos or whatever you want to call them, because somebody will accuse me, aha, caught you, you don't live off grid because you said you have coffee, you drink coffee, you can't drink coffee, too much electricity, you don't have enough solar panels. We have a percolator right here, and you can see and I use that 2 times a day. We make coffee first thing in the morning, make coffee in the evening, and you put it on here, it percolates, about 15 minutes you got coffee. And then we pour the coffee into a coffee thermos, which keeps it warm until we drink it all. Again, living the life, understanding what it is we do every day. Before we did all our adventure stuff, I couldn't live without a Bunn coffee pot. You pour the water in and instantly coffee is brewing. And within 3 or 4 minutes, you had coffee, 5 minutes at most. We have the chickens. One of the things that I think people don't quite grasp is we eat the eggs every day. We eat meat every day. We're carnivores. That's all we eat, meat and eggs. And people tell me all the time, there's no way you can eat just meat and eggs. You get tired of it. Well, once again, if you're not living the life, you don't understand. Preppers will tell you to eat rice and beans. Well, rice and beans, first of all, are addictive because they have carbohydrates, sugars, and sugars are addictive. So once you break yourself of the carbohydrate addiction, then you can eat meat, and it's just a thing you do now. It's not something that you crave. You're not craving food. I was actually told once on a video that you can't overeat if you just eat meat. And that's true, you can't. Whereas if you're eating ice cream or some awesome food or spaghetti, you can stuff yourself until you're uncomfortable. Since I've been on a carnivorous diet, I don't think I've stuffed myself at all. Except on Fridays. Now Fridays we go to Dollar General and we buy pistachios and ice cream. And then by the time I'm done with everything, I'm pretty stuffed. So again, carbohydrates, things that I don't need. But once you get into a carnivorous diet, you get off the addiction of sugars, it's easy. And if you're a prepper, there is no way you know that. Feeding the chickens. I've talked about this before. Carolyn is in there right now. We have all this rice that we had stored up before we became carnivores. And we were eating rice all the time, and rice is very fattening, carbohydrates, lots of sugars. And if you ever think about rice, you know, they always say if you go to a Chinese restaurant, 10 minutes later you're hungry again. That's because you're eating sugar. Sugar dilutes and all of a sudden you're just hungry. So right now she's got a pan of rice and some corn that she has hand ground up. The other day she made cornbread. And she cooks it up on the wood stove, and then she takes down the chickens and feeds them. So the rice, which we don't eat, feeds the chickens, which feeds us. And we also talked about sunflower seeds. She sprouts sunflower seeds. So we grow sunflower seeds, and then she can turn 50 pounds of sunflower seeds into 250 pounds simply by sitting them in a pan or a jar or something, and they sprout. She waters them, drains it, waters, drains, about 3 or 4 days. It sprouts out, and then all of a sudden you got this big, looks like chia pet sprout out. And then you feed that to them, and you just give them a handful, and that gives them all the protein they need. And then they can feed off the grass and the leaves and the bugs and around here, and that gives them all the other nutrients they need. So again, you wouldn't necessarily know how to do that, and you may be aware of it, but if you're not practicing it every day like she does, then you wouldn't know. Right now she's in there grinding up eggshells to feed back to the chickens, and she puts that into her rice or her cornbread or whatever she's feeding them, and that gives them the calcium to produce more eggs. Now with the eggshells, you got to dry them out. So in the summertime she puts them in our sun dehydrator, and that dries them out pretty good. But in the wintertime, again, she puts them right on the wood stove, dries them out. Oh, you rinse them, you clean them, and then dries them out, and then she can hand grind them in the meat grinder. Now we did just recently purchase a grain mill, make it easier to grind corn. That way, when you go to the store in the wintertime, if you want to buy corn, because corn fattens chickens up, it keeps them warmer in the wintertime. So we can buy whole corn for $10, or we can buy cracked corn, same amount, for I think $14. So you save quite a bit of money. All you gotta do is grind it up yourself. Well then, of course, like I said, she's making cornbread, and she puts bacon grease in it. I think bacon grease or some sort of grease that gives them some fat and proteins and everything they need. Again, if you're a prepper, you're not necessarily practicing this. You've got everything you need, but even if you said, okay, I'm going to do everything Rob does, if SHTF were to happen, you would still need the practice. I mean, there's things that we fail at all the time. So we adjust our process. One of the last failures we had, we went out and bought some chicken food and we put it in a trash can, Rubbermaid trash can. Well, somehow or another, it leaked and water got into it and molded all of it. So we went out and bought barrels where you can tighten it with the screw, and we haven't had any problems with that. So Lesson learned. Now, if you were SHTF and you were trying so hard to minimize all your catastrophes, you've just lost all your chicken food, you've just lost all your chickens, and now you've lost your food. So I continuously am telling you that I think that I'm better prepared, even though I'm not a prepper, than the people who say they are preppers. Back in the early 2000s, I consider myself a prepper. In the back of my mind, I knew I couldn't handle anything because I didn't have a solution for my water. We lived in town. I mean, we had some chickens and ducks and goats and different things. So I think we had quite a bit of it taken care of, but in the end, we didn't have water. We had one of those old-timey hand pump wells, went about 15 feet deep, but I had no way to filter it. Back then, I didn't even know how to sanitize it, purify it. I could have purified it with bleach, but I didn't know that. So I'm trying to figure out ways to evaporate it, make it into steam and turn it into water. The best I could come up with was my pressure cooker. It's got that valve on it. Well, if you take the valve off and you stick a hose on that steam would come up, cool off, and make it into water. But it would take forever. There's no way I would have been able to make enough drinking water. And what was I going to heat it up with? I didn't have any firewood. Heck, even my heating solutions weren't working. Now I got unlimited firewood. I got 60 years worth of firewood in the woods. I got 15 years already cut up. I have plenty of firewood to last the rest of my life. So I say this a lot in videos. Well, the subscriber said, "You're wrong. I've lived in fear my entire life. And the only way I have felt better is by watching prepping videos, because now I am prepared for situations that had scared me ever since I was a child." So you feel prepared. As I have stated, preppers don't test themselves. So even though that they may feel prepared, doesn't mean they're actually prepared. Secondly, how is it that I'm lying to you? I'm telling you that I have a better solution than preppers. You may feel prepared, but I am prepared. You may not feel scared, but I am not scared because I don't have anything to be scared about. If the electric grid goes down, I won't even know. So I don't understand how I'm failing to communicate that what I'm doing is just better. And I'm trying not to be a braggart. I don't want to brag, but it is, because I've been on both sides of the fence. I was a prepper, and now I'm living a mostly self-sustaining lifestyle. If you'll click this up next box to take to a video where I was talking about Congress making a new law on firewood. So I hope I can inspire you to not be afraid, so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.